drop it like it's Matt Gaetz' nomination. Power panel. But in this case, it's just Cenk Uygur and John Irola. We had a technical connection problem. So, but guess what, guys? John and I think, are plenty powerful enough for a power panel.
I disagree, but that's okay. We can disagree.
Okay.
I think it'll be fun.
Obviously, Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, John Irola, Polymarket Studio here in LA.
Yeah.
So, we've got some news on Donald Trump's nominations, obviously. And the one I'm most animated by, honestly, is Hegseth. The more you read about Hegseth, the more you realize there's nothing but just this pounding piece of meat in his head. He's a meathead who hates our Constitution and our democracy, and is a danger to the country.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty clear on Hegseth.
Yeah, we don't know for sure, but it's looking like he might end the sterling reputation of Fox News men. They've all been unimpeachable, and suddenly one of them looks like a creep.
Huh, interesting.
But anyway, jokes about the number of people on the panel aside, it is going to be novel to be able to have time to give my opinion on these stories.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be
So
nice.
that's gonna be fun. I'm gonna do that.
All right.
But anyway, you wanna get into it?
Yep.
Okay, we can talk about all of those people and more. Over the past decade or so, we have had to watch as a never-ending train of Republicans queue up to lick Donald Trump's boots. But I think all of them could take notes from Senator Lindsey Graham, who, when he saw that Pam Bondi was going to be the second pick for Trump's AG, here's what he tweeted. Well done, Mr. President. Picking Pam Bondi for Attorney General is a grand slam, touchdown, hole-in-one, ace, hat trick, slam dunk, Olympic gold medal pick. She will be confirmed quickly because she deserves to be confirmed quickly. I don't know what. He's a full-grown man. I don't know what that's supposed to be like.
I know what it is. It's
what is it?
It's a grand slam, touchdown, hole-in-one, ace, hat trick, slam dunk, Olympic gold medal, ass kissing. Okay. I mean, if anyone deserves a gold medal in ass kissing, it's Lindsey Graham. So remember, like when he thought Trump was going to lose in this election cycle, he started talking crap about him. Okay, the minute he realized Trump's gonna win, he said, I meant gold medal ass kissing, please, Donald. So, but there's something more important than the usual Lindsey Graham groveling, and he's such a hilarious, pathetic sniveler that we enjoy it. I said this on yesterday's program, I said it today, this morning on Don Lemon's show, I'm saying it here. Pam Bondi is going to fly by in these confirmation proceedings. She's going to be win easily, confirmed super easily, and there's one reason why, because she's corrupt, and the Senate loves corruption, absolutely, positively loves it. That's why when she was picked, they know her record, which we're about to tell you, right? And when they saw how corrupt she is, they're like, yes. That's the right pick, okay? This Matt Gaetz guy was annoying, challenging Republican colleagues in freaking anti-war or something. Plus, he's a dirtbag. But they're all dirtbags, so they don't really care about that part, right?
Yeah.
What they cared about is, Pam Bondi, unmitigated, unadulterated corruption. Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us about our next Attorney General.
We're gonna get into all of those. I just want to point out, and look, it feels weird that I have to be the person to do this. I don't have a reputation of being super into sports compared to some of the other people around here. Although I do go to a lot of events of sport. It just feels super weird. Like is he on a thesaurus or something? Like, did he chat GPT? What's an impressive sports thing? Like Olympic gold medal, you're gonna put that in the same list as like an ace? Like I've played tennis, I've played volleyball. Those are wildly different levels of achievement. It just seems strange. Like, think before you kiss butt.
I mean, there's an excellent chance that Lindsey Graham's never played a sport in his life.
Which is fine, but you don't have to throw around the lingo. I generally do it as a self-effacing joke, but I don't think that's what he's doing here. He just is one. But anyway, let's dive a little bit into the background and qualifications of Trump's new pick to be the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. So we are learning a lot about her, and to be fair, she's popped up in the news previously. TYT has done stories on her. We want to get into a little bit of what Cenk had been saying previously on the show about how likely she is to sort of sail through here, because certain types of people who might have had a problem with a Matt Gaetz are probably not going to have a problem with her. And we're going to play a little bit of Ana Navarro vouching for her on The View so you get an idea of what we're talking about.
I have known Pam Bondi for many, many, many years. I will tell you, I don't want to ruin her reputation with MAGA people, but Pam Bondi and I hung out a lot when she was Attorney General of Florida and she would come to Miami. We drank a lot together. I liked her a lot. She's not a kook. What's a little election denialism between friends? When, you know, at least, listen, everything in life is relative,
election
people.
Denialism is a very big
So
deal.
we gotta take Can I continue saying this? Everything in life is relative. There is no accusation of sexual harassment or assault against her. There's no accusation.
She's also qualified.
Sexual
She was the
misconduct with a
Attorney General.
17-year-old.
Also accusations.
She hasn't killed, beheaded a whale. She hasn't stabbed a dead bear cub. I mean, my God.
We can't minimize some of the things that she has done. And I think we have a clip of some of her former comments. Why don't we take a look at that?
We are thrilled to have won Pennsylvania with 87% of the vote in, and we're up almost 400,000 votes. So we're thrilled.
We do have evidence of cheating. We are not going anywhere until they declare that we won Pennsylvania.
Yeah, eventually they did, because they didn't win Pennsylvania, of course. And so look, Ana Navarro, I guess, is like, what, 8% joking there, 12% joking, I don't know. But I think her point is, she hasn't done some of the stuff that Matt Gaetz has done. She's not, being accused of committing sex crimes or other crimes. I mean, we'll see. If anybody has access to her Venmo history, feel free to send that to me. I'll protect your confidentiality and we'll see if there's anything in there. But the idea that simply because she's one of the nominees that isn't accused of sexual assault and hasn't done bizarre things with animals, well then I guess we're done. We can have her. Even though she herself brought up the fact that what should be one of the most disqualifying things, a predisposition to allow a wannabe strongman to deny the results of elections that he doesn't win. Like, if that doesn't concern you about the chief law enforcement, someone who theoretically would be brought in to get involved with manipulating the results of elections, then I don't know what would.
No, exactly as predicted, right? So Ana Navarro is a uniparty corporate Democrat, former corporate Republican, loves Pam Bondi's corruption. They've had drinks over it, okay? So, and look at what she's saying. Oh, there's no sex scandal and there's no animal scandal, so she's fine. I don't think that that's the qualification for Attorney General, okay? So, and to her, the idea of the over-the-top corruption that we're about to tell you about is more important than a sex scandal or what you did to a dead bear or worm. Is like,
or what the worm did to you.
And part of the reason why, guys, is they, as I've been telling you 1,000 times, they use sex to attack anyone who isn't pro-establishment, any kind of sexual allegations, etc. And some of them are totally real, right? So it's a mixed bag on that stuff. But they just don't find any of the awful things that we hate about politics to be offensive. They love those things. So that's why they view those kind of charges as a way to attack people they don't like. But the minute that she likes Bondi said that we should go after all the prosecutors and the investigators. We've got that clip.
Why don't we play that?
So yeah, we're gonna play that clip for you in 1 second. And then it's Ana Navarro who was telling us Trump's gonna take away democracy and going to arrest his political opponents. Not concerned because she knows Pam Bondi and Pam Bondi's gonna look out for the donors. She's fine. Interesting. Watch the actual Pam Bondi here.
The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows, but now they have a spotlight on them and they can all be investigated.
Yeah, I mean, you combine those two things. If he tries to challenge the results of an election, and by the way, not even necessarily like he runs for a third term or whatever, but just like, I don't know, maybe the midterms. Maybe they lose a couple of Senate races in the midterms and there goes Pam Bondi to hash things out. So she's willing to deny the results of elections. She's his personal lawyer, which is already a big, norms are being shredded left and right in terms of the independence of the DOJ. But then we're now promising we're going to weaponize the DOJ. Forget all that stuff we said about how that was a bad thing. No, that's specifically what we're going to do. Anyone who investigated Donald Trump for the crimes we all know he committed most of them in full plain sight. He got off because of judicial corruption, not because he didn't do those things. If you rightly investigated him for crimes he doesn't even deny doing, then you yourself should be investigated for doing your goddamn job.
Yeah, and she has a history of this, as we're about to show you, for benefactors. So in this case, Donald Trump's her benefactor, but in the past, other people have been her benefactors, and she has served them loyally. That is why Lindsey Graham and Ana Navarro are beyond themselves and going, this is the perfect corrupt pick, okay? So let me just remind you of one of the stories, and then John has a new one for you. So yesterday we told you about how, but fun little details that I didn't mention yesterday. So the way that it broke down with her and Trump originally is, she was Attorney General of Florida. Trump was running a fake university, Trump University, and all the Attorney Generals started investigating it, realizing that it's not real at all and that he's robbing people blind. So she gets that same memo. And instead of launching an investigation, she calls Donald Trump and asks him for a contribution, okay? And by the way, her lawyer confirms this. So then Donald Trump sends her $25,000 from his fake charity to get off on charges about his fake university. Okay, that is illegal. Later, Donald Trump pays a $2,500 fine for illegally sending her $25,000 from a charity to a political action committee, basically. And so then she goes 4 days later, after the check clears, she goes, oh, I looked into it and decided that there's nothing here. Well, you said like literally 2 weeks ago that you were considering investigating this or you're joining the case. Yeah, I considered it, and after the $25,000 check, I decided not to. Okay, so, well, and by the way, remember that charity Donald Trump admitted was fraudulent, paid a $2 million fine and disbanded it. And the university that she was originally considering looking into, also fraudulent. Donald Trump also admitted that and paid a $25 million penalty. And by the way, that penalty could have been larger if people like Pam Bondi joined in on that suit. But since she got bribed by Donald Trump, illegally in this case, she dropped the case because and you're gonna see it even more starkly in the next story. She doesn't care about morality at all, doing the job at all. There's only one thing she cares about. Where's the money? Wherever the money is, I will serve those donors loyally and I will destroy law and order on their behalf.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is, even if you don't think, wrongly, if you don't think that what happened between her and Trump University was wildly, objectively corrupt, it's just bribery, that's all it is. Even if you set all that aside, she looked into it and thought there's nothing there. She was dead wrong. He was robbing people blind. He was robbing his most devoted followers blind, and she, in her official capacity as the AG of Florida, just couldn't see it. So even if you don't think she's corrupt, I guess she's incompetent. And do you want her to be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States? She's gonna be trying to take down transnational criminal organizations. She's gonna be challenging big pharma and all that. She's so stupid, she couldn't even see the corruption in Trump University.
And that's the most generous look at it, obviously. And
yeah,
guys,
obviously I think it's just corrupt, but.
Yeah, but guys, think about it, right? So even Donald Trump, who never admits fault, admitted that it was a scam and paid a gigantic $25 million fine. So do you know how bad it has to be for Donald Trump to admit it and pay that large a fine? And Pam Bondi couldn't see any evidence? In a best case scenario, as John laid out? So of course she saw overwhelming evidence, and it shows you, again, what she cares about and doesn't care about. And so we're gonna have someone who's really brazen here, over the top, in saying, as long as someone with money gives it to me, I will do anything that they want. So it's craven. And look, Donald Trump is paying loyalists, and so he thinks this is perfect. She's already proven her loyalty to me. She's already proven that she's willing to break the law for me. Yeah. She's already proven she has no morals at all. And she said that she's going to illegally go after prosecutors and investigators. She never said, and why do I say illegally? She never said they had committed any crimes.
Yeah.
Right? She's just like, I didn't like what they did politically, so I'm going to target them legally.
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly what you said the Democrats were doing, except the Democrats actually showed overwhelming evidence of the crimes of Donald Trump. Here they're saying, I don't need crimes. All I need is Donald Trump to tell me to arrest our enemies, and I'll arrest them. And if you include a check, I'll give you special kickers on it. So, but now let's look about it from non-Trump perspective, so you know who she is and how this isn't about Trump.
Okay. Story not involving him literally at all, but yeah, let's learn a little bit more about Pam Bondi, who could well become the AG. So back in 2010, there were two attorneys in Florida. So they were working for the state attorney's general office, and they discovered a scam. They did great work in unveiling it, and here's basically what it looked like. So this is June Clarkson and Teresa Edwards, and what they found was that there was a group of law firms in Florida referred to as foreclosure mills, because they were doing all these mass foreclosures. And one of the tools they used to do that was that they had hundreds of thousands of falsified documents that were used in the pursuit of these foreclosures. And a group of victims of the foreclosures had found these documents that were literally signed things like bogus assignee or whatever. They had documents dated 9/9/9999, which either proves that the documents were fraudulent or time travel is involved, and I'm worried about either one of those incidents. But they had documents notarized on dates before they were allegedly created, more evidence possibly of a temporal incursion. The false documents were necessary because banks and lenders striving during the housing bubble to sell mortgages and deliver them to investors securitized the loans without maintaining chain of title, botching the true ownership records. So there's like gaps in the documentation, and rather than that potentially be uncovered and a judge getting involved and that potentially going against those with the mortgages and potentially going towards the actual homeowners, they just make it up. They just falsify a bunch of the documents so they can do their foreclosures and make more money. And so the Attorney's General Office, seeing this evidence being provided by the lawyers and the victims, opened investigations into these mills, and before long, the banks stopped pursuing the foreclosures, which is a great thing because they're actually following the law, and also because people aren't fraudulently having their homes stolen from them. So at that point, Pam Bondi gets elected Florida's Attorney General. And so she won election thanks in part to donations, thousands of dollars in contributions from none other than Lender Processing Services and its affiliates, obviously among the foreclosure mills. They got involved and they put money towards a candidate that they thought would go easier on them after they had been breaking the law, to be clear. And so the two attorneys who had first been pursuing these documents and these foreclosure mills were frozen out of the investigation. Within just a couple of months, they were actually fired despite doing an amazing job in unveiling this. This is like the definition of justice. They get fired for their trouble. And so when asked why they were let go, their supervisor told them, "It came from the top. Tallahassee didn't give me a reason." And of course, at that point, she is the top of Florida's law enforcement. And by the way, that wasn't all that Bondi ended up giving to the foreclosure mills, getting rid of this investigation. After Clarkson and Edwards left, the Florida Attorney General's office never issued another subpoena to any foreclosure mill or associated target. Bondi settled one case with a mill for just $2 million, a small portion of the profits that they had gotten from breaking the law. Other investigations were closed without charges. Top deputies from the AG's office became senior executives at LPS and other foreclosure mills. So literally, like it's even more direct than just lobbying. They shut down the investigations of companies that they were then hired at. So they got paid beforehand, then they're in the AG's office, they shut down the investigations, and then they get paid again in the jobs. The most obvious corruption imaginable. And we have some other red flags that we should talk about, but that's pretty bad, Jake.
Yeah, so guys, this is exactly what I mean when I say corruption. So it doesn't get any more direct than, oh, you gave me a campaign contribution. You're a criminal who's robbing my citizens blind. Excuse me, my job as Attorney General is to protect the citizens of Florida, but I'm gonna screw them over because you bribed me. In that case, legally, campaign contributions, unfortunately, are legalized bribes. So I'm gonna fire any prosecutor who would protect you. And I'm gonna make sure that your fines are minimal or go away. I mean, if this isn't corruption, what is? And if you're in Florida and you're a Republican, did you want to be robbed by a mortgage company? Did you want them to foreclose on you when you hadn't done anything wrong? Can you imagine how enraged you'd be? Taking away your home, your personal property, when you played by the rules and you did everything right. But her counter to you is, yeah, but I got a really large campaign contribution. So, and I serve the rich, the elites, the establishment, etc. Look at how excited the establishment is when she's picked. So you can all close your eyes to it if you're on the right, and you could say, no, Daddy Trump is always right. So she's protecting Trump, and she's gonna arrest our opponents and serve the donor class. I'm here for it, and I love it. Well, okay, then I guess you never meant anything you ever said about the Democrats or the left or the establishment.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to find out who Trump is. I mean, we're pretty sure because he picks people like Pam Bondi, right? We know who Pam Bondi is, right? And now the next thing that we're gonna find out is who are the right-wing voters. So in this case, you will not be faced with a decision. It won't get to you. Some votes will be close enough, some issues will be close enough that right-wing populists, if I'm right, could swing it one way or another, and they could either choose to go in the wrong direction and go, oh yeah, throw away all the leftists, yeah, screw freedom, we hate it, right? Or they could say, no, we didn't mean arrest them, that's crazy. We didn't mean serve the donors, that's crazy, right? But it won't be on this one because she's gonna sail through. Since if I'm right, the establishment will love her, and they'll put up a fake fight. Oh, golly gee, we are so worried about this or that. You are a bad Trump person, okay? But go on through right away, okay? And you'll see.
Yeah, because as bad as this looks, as far as we know, she's never gone buck wild at a cocaine orgy, so I guess she's cool. That's a sad standard for the top law enforcement officer. And I totally agree. Like, it's one thing for your chosen representatives to fail you and you to not mind. Like, they try and it doesn't work out or something. But when they're specifically and intentionally robbing you, it's very strange that that doesn't bother you. Like, again, it's Florida. It's the majority of the people who are having their houses stolen from them are Republicans. They might be MAGA Republicans. She helped make that happen. In the same way that it is Trump lovers who are being scammed by Trump University, she tried to keep them as screwed as they had been. And they don't mind, they just don't seem to care. And obviously we have a bit of a disagreement about some of the terminology, but like, I find this to be a perfect example of why I think the populism of the right is an utter sham. It always comes down to this. She says the right thing about immigration on Fox News, and then she goes and delivers to corporations. Like, their populism is, Disney releases a movie where there's a gay kiss, so they say to boycott it, and then they cut Disney's taxes in half the next time they're in office. Like, that's what it is. It's like, it's identity politics and like culture wars in the front, but then the action is all delivering to the richest and most powerful people in the country. Not sometimes, predictably, every single time.
John, for the record, we don't have a disagreement on that. You're talking about the Republican leaders and Trump and his crew. I agree with you. That's all they've ever done so far. I'm talking about the right-wing populist voters.
The voters, okay.
Okay, and so we'll see if they have rebellion in them, and if they believed in freedom, or they actually secretly love corruption in the establishment, as long as Trump does it.
Yeah, I just want to mention one other thing, possibly for a quick. I was doing more research on Pam Bondi. So she had said last year, and we might have covered it at that point, that campus protesters who expressed support for Hamas, God only knows how they define that, should face FBI questioning. So look, she's supposed to be like, she's not a judge or whatever, but she's a chief law enforcement officer. Has she literally ever seen the Constitution? Has she ever been within a country mile of the Constitution? She thinks First Amendment, no, like, not if you say something I don't like, forget about it.
And guys, that's easy to decipher code word for anyone who protests Israel. So it's not like they're gonna be like, oh no, they were protesting Israel because we're spending too much money on Israel and then we're concerned about the war crimes. Oh, but those guys actually support Hamas. Let's just target those guys. No, they're gonna round up everyone and they're gonna say, how dare you not bow your head to Israel? So another reason why she's establishment and neocon, etc. That's why she's gonna fly through. And by the way, same thing with Hegseth, who we're gonna talk about in the next segment. Hegseth thinks that the US military should be used against Americans if they defy Israel. Like, these guys aren't populist, they're not America first, right? These are total frauds. So we'll see if right wing goes, yeah, as long as they're my frauds, I'm good with it. And I know no one else is curious. Everybody thinks that the jury's in, but I'm curious as to which way they're going to go on that.
Well, I'm curious with this Hamas thing, how many Democrats will end up voting for her. Maybe she'll get the 15.
Oh no, I'm not playing with you. Yeah. Democrats might vote for her because she's so pro-corruption, pro-establishment, and they love that.
Yeah.
So she might get half the Democrats.
Yeah, hell, she might get multiple votes from people she'll end up trying to throw in prison. But we'll see. See what Adam Schiff does.
Oh, Adam Schiff. Oh my God. He's like, wait, you're going to arrest every Israel protester?
They're going to be dragging him away to a gulag, and he's going to be trying to get to the button to vote for her as he's dragged away. Anyway, well, we should take our first break because we do have to talk about Pete Hegseth and the risk that he potentially poses to America.
We'll be right back. All right, so let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Ground News. Outlets across the political spectrum always do selective reporting, right? They're influenced by corporate agendas, making what Ground News is doing not only revolutionary, but crucial right now, that's true. They're fixing what's been broken in the news landscape for a long time by giving us the tools to think critically based on all the facts. So go to Ground, that's GROUND.news/TYT to try it out for yourself. Our viewers get a massive 50% off their top tier Vantage plan. It's the same one I use to help with my research and stay accurately informed on the most pressing issues we discuss every day. Find the link in the description box below on the video. All right, so check them out because they let you know how biased the different sources are, mainstream media, right-wing media, etc. That's why I like it. All right, now to us, Shop TYT's got a 10% a holiday promotion for you guys. Make sure you use the promo code HOLIDAY10. Easy to remember because it's 10% off for the holiday, so HOLIDAY10. Okay, and free shipping on orders over $200. And although this Anna sweatshirt says no cookies for you, you do get some cookies. You get 10% off, you get free shipping if it's above $200.
Who's that on the wish list?
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
I can't tell.
Is that Bernie?
It might be Bernie.
As Bernie Santa Claus?
Bernie Claus.
Bernie Claus. All right, random shout out here to one of our members, Marquita Copper. She wrote in, my birthday falls on Saturday the 23rd. I'll be 41, yay. It's not asking for much. Could I get a shout out from Dr. Richie and Jenk if it's not asking for too much? They are my favorites, LOL, hard eyes, but I still love everyone. All right, so if I'm your favorite, then I definitely like you and happy birthday. So seriously, Marquita, thanks for being one of us. We appreciate you so much and enjoy the birthday. And we're doing a members only poll. How do you self-identify, okay? Are you populist left, identitarian left, mainstream Democrat? Are you independent? Are you populist right? I wanna know, okay? So I don't know how many of our members consider themselves independent or populist right. That's kind of super interesting to me. So you let us know at tyt.com. You gotta be a member. This is one of the members only polls. And I wanna see what you guys' politics are. So if you can, check it out, tyt.com, okay? By the way, if you're a member on YouTube and you wanna vote on that, just do tyt.com/connect because it connects your two accounts. It doesn't cost you anything at all. It actually gives you more stuff like the ability to vote on that poll. And then you could also get John's True North, which is a great series about climate change, where he actually went to the North Pole. So, I mean, if there is a Santa Claus here, there's only been one host that's been to the North Pole. I'm not saying anything.
Might have run into him.
Right, and you're also white, and Santa's white, and we learned that from Megyn Kelly, so there you go.
It's long been noted.
Okay, so now we're beginning to understand. All right, seriously guys, thank you to everybody who participated. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and John with you guys, but also Woman AF, thank you for gifting 5 memberships on YouTube, and Ramon, thank you for gifting 10. You guys are American heroes. John.
Thank you. Let's talk about someone who's about as far from one as I can imagine. I was really hoping that by the time we went live, he would have pulled his nomination, but unfortunately not. Pete Hegseth, who is Donald Trump's pick for defense secretary, has been getting a lot of attention throughout the week because of the accusations against him of sexual assault. And more details have been coming out throughout the week. But there is another reason that you should be very worried about this guy holding the particular office that he's nominated for. He wrote in his book, American Crusade, back in 2020, that he could imagine a situation in which the military needs to use deadly violence against the American people. He wrote that in the event of a Democratic election victory in the US, there would be a, quote, national divorce in which, quote, the military and police, both bastions of freedom-loving patriots, will be forced to make a choice and, quote, yes, there will be some form of civil war. Now, of course, the Democrats did win in 2020. There was not a national divorce. The military did not begin firing on the American people, thankfully. But he assumed it would be the case. Now, he did at least say it's a horrific scenario. Right-wingers don't always add that when they fantasize about a civil war. And says nobody wants that, but it would be difficult to avoid. I disagree. I think there are a few things easier than not splitting the country in two and killing people you disagree with. But he also went on in the book to say, so basically he was trying to advise and encourage conservatives to undertake a, quote, American crusade, literally the name of the book, to, quote, mock, humiliate, intimidate, and crush our leftist opponents, to, quote, attack first in response to a left he identifies with sedition, his word. And he writes that the book, quote, lays out the strategy we must employ in order to defeat America's internal enemies. And that sort of language he just uses constantly throughout the book. He describes leftists, progressives, and Democrats as enemies of freedom, the US Constitution, and America, and counts Israel among the international allies who can help defeat such domestic enemies. So enemies, domestic enemies, the enemy from within, all of that stuff. He goes on to say-
Hold on, before you go any further, we've got to pause there. Did you catch what he just said? That we should use Israel to defeat enemies inside America.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean? Is he gonna bring Israeli troops like the IDF inside America to arrest, I'm gonna guess, opponents of Israel, right? Like we don't need their help in arresting, like if we found a local terrorist, do we need to bring the IDF in to arrest the terrorist?
I don't think he's talking about arresting, Jake.
Yeah. So what is this lunatic? I genuinely believe this guy's a lunatic. What is he talking about? You're gonna bring the IDF on American soil to do what? To do what to the left or to your enemies or to their enemies? Are they gonna round us up? Are they gonna arrest us? Are they gonna kill us? What do you want the Israeli military to do on American soil? And how in the world do you call yourself America first after writing this garbage, this trash about how a foreign government should come and arrest American citizens if we offend that foreign government?
Yeah.
Anyone who calls us America first just apparently doesn't understand the words America or first.
Yeah, and by the way, how are you gonna call yourself the Secretary of Defense when you're promising preemptively to allow another country to invade and occupy our territory if that's what it takes to take out your political enemies?
Oh, good news, we could all be Palestinians then. Okay, so I look forward to Israel occupying us if our Secretary of Defense turns the country over to them. I mean, guys, I didn't write this, and it's not like we're taking it out of context or playing with the words. The words are super clear. To use Israel inside America, that's insane. It target his enemies and protect, like it's mental. Yeah. If anyone said, oh, I'd like to maybe bring in the Saudi troops here to arrest Republicans I don't like, you'd be like, what? I find the right wing to be enemies from within. That's why I invited the mullahs and the Ayatollah to come in and start rounding them up.
Yeah.
I mean, that person would have a 0% chance of getting to any post. But I'm afraid of talking about it too much, because if we start talking about that angle too much, the Democrats might vote yes for it.
100%, your name could end up on a list. I'm not 100% sure he can write, but if he could, you could be on a list. Yeah, look, I think the Proud Boys are really concerning. Patriot Front. So Canadian troops, come in, wipe out our militias.
Mexican troops, Venezuelan troops. How would anybody accept this in any circumstance other than the magic word Israel?
Yeah.
And so Israel can come in and run roughshod over our freedoms? And this guy thinks he's a patriot? He sounds like a piece of crap sellout to me.
He goes on to say, the hour is late for America. Certainly is feeling that way. Beyond political success, her fate relies on exercising the leftist specter dominating education, religion, and culture, a 360-degree holy war for the righteous cause of human freedom. So he's just a Christian fascist. That's all he is. I'm not like a nuanced one or sophisticated one. He seems like a dolt, but to the extent that he can understand the words that he's using, the concepts that he's invoking, he believes that Christianity and American might should be used to wipe out his political opposition. And by the way, it is not a coincidence that the people with the fewest neurons there to rub together find it so appealing to just kill everyone you disagree with. A guy whose job is literally in political communication and persuasion has so internalized the complete lack of ability that he and the right has to actually convince anyone of the superiority of their actual ideas, finds very appealing the idea that we just line up everyone we disagree with and gun them down. But anyway,
we haven't even gotten into how much he hates democracy, which he literally says, which we're going to read to you verbatim. But I want to make another point. You mentioned holy war in there. He mentioned that, right? So some are trying to make excuses for him. Look, and can you find things where people go too far? Yeah, of course. So he has a "We the People" tattoo. So what? That doesn't mean anything, right? I'm in favor of "We the People," right? He has a tattoo where the last line of the flag is, I think, a semi-automatic gun or whatever it is, assault rifle. Okay, it's dumb. I hate it, but who cares? That's not. I don't. That he's a right winger, I get it. They like guns, they like the flag, they can put the two together. I don't care, right? So no, we're trying to bring to you things that are actually concerning. Okay. So when someone says holy war, if you just saw the other stuff, you might dismiss it and go, oh, no big deal. Oh, I heard online that the left wing is complaining about a cross he has as a tattoo, and so they're anti-Christian. No, brothers and sisters. The cross is a crusader's cross. Okay, fine. You want to go back for historical context, and you like, okay, I don't really care, right? But it has the crusader logo on it too. They're saying, okay, it's some Latin words that I'll find for you in a second. Okay, that's a little bit more concerning, but by itself, again, not a big deal. Until you see this in his book. He said he has a chapter entitled "Make the Crusade Great Again." Oh, okay, wow. See, that doesn't seem as complicated. Now when you start talking about holy war, wait, do you mean that symbolically or do you mean it literally? Because you have a chapter entitled "Make the Crusade Great Again." And then in that chapter he says, quote, "Whether you like it or not, you are an infidel, an unbeliever, according to the false religion of leftism. You can submit now or later, or you can fight." So he's painting it as, we don't have a political disagreement. No, I've invented a thing called the religion of the left, leftism. That's not a religion at all. He just made that up. And I think that those guys view you as an infidel. In other words, the left is associated with dangerous Muslims, and they're the kind of people who would call you an infidel. So let's do a holy war or crusade against them. You could wait till later, but I think you should fight now. Okay, all right, then you're a freaking lunatic, right?
He literally said attack first.
He says attack first.
Preemptive war against your political opponents.
What are you, Cobra Kai? Okay, like what? Like, are you like he's like one of those evil senseis in the Cobra Kai series?
I had the T-shirt.
Yeah, like he's like Kreese, and he's like, oh yeah, attack first.
Okay,
right. Frickin' Gollum. All right,
he can be Kreese. He's not head of Eagle Fang. But anyway,
no way.
So yeah, look, he said the infidel stuff, and again, it's all utter projection. He's literally advocating for everyone who disagrees with us is one group that needs to be literally destroyed. And aren't they aggressive in painting us all as the same thing? But anyway, I didn't have the reference to democracy that you had. I would not be surprised to find out he wasn't a fan of it. But I have some updates on some of the allegations against him, as well as indications from inside of the Trump camp that they're starting to grow a bit shaky on him. But was there another quote that you wanted to get to?
Yes, so he says, quote, "For leftists, calls for democracy represent a complete rejection of our system." Democracy represents a rejection of our system? Democracy is our system. What the hell kind of lunatic talk is that? So wait, are you pro-America or are you weirdly anti-American? Anti-democracy, what a weird thing to say. He says, quote, they hate America, so they hate the Constitution and want to quickly amass 51% of the votes to change it. No, brother, you amass 51% of the votes to win an election in a democracy.
Yeah.
He's making it seem like democracy and getting to 51% is evil and bad. And if you really cared about the Constitution, you would what? Presumably destroy democracy and not let anyone get to 51% because then they would be the majority? No, if you and guys, look, I've described this type of character before, but Hegseth is like the embodiment of this way of thinking. And he's gone even further than I imagined that they would actually literally write down, right? To him, America is not democracy. It's not the US Constitution. It's not the idea of the people, by the people, for the people. It's me, I'm white, I'm Christian, I'm a white nationalist, I'm a Christian nationalist, and America is for me and not for you. Okay, if you're a different religion, unless you're Israel, then you're welcome in, give me the money.
Honorary.
Okay, yeah, but everyone else, you're not real Americans, you're the enemy within. We're gonna use the military against you, both the US and the Israeli military. We're gonna target you, and we're not gonna let you get to 51%. Because democracy is dangerous. Because to us, America is those ideas. But you remember J.D. Vance's speech at the RNC? He said America is not an idea, it's land, okay? Because they want to say, it's the people who are here, the good white Christian nationalist folks who are here, okay? Now this stupid idea about democracy. Now, do you see why we were concerned about democracy? Because these kind of ghouls and goblins, and Trump picks him as potential Secretary of Defense. By the way, there's more, okay? He says, quote, irreconcilable differences between the left and the right in America, leading to perpetual conflict that cannot be resolved through the political process. So he literally doesn't believe in the political process or democracy or getting to 51% to win an election. He thinks America stands for violent militarism, where you do the crusades against anyone in his holy war that he thinks doesn't belong to his group. I'm not done, John, there's so many quotes from this book. This guy's a lunatic. He said, America will decline and die, a national divorce will ensue, outnumbered freedom lovers will fight back, okay? Always violence, violence, violence. Oh great, this guy's gonna be in charge of the biggest military the world has ever seen. He says, the military and the police, so you read that part. He says, see you on the battlefield. Together with God's help, we will save America. Deuce Vault. And Deuce Vault is again, the charge of the Crusaders. That's the slogan of the Crusaders.
And also incredibly popular in recent years amongst some gamers and lots of proto-fascists.
Yeah, and so, he's got another quote about cheating. Oh, here it is. He says, quote, the other side is stacked with enemies of freedom. So here we go again, repetitive, enemies of freedom. Although ironically, he argues against freedom.
100%.
It's amazing. And then he says, quote, Republican legislatures should draw congressional lines that advantage pro-freedom candidates and screw Democrats. So he's literally saying we should gerrymander it so they cannot ever win an election. We should screw them over and advantage the candidates that he agrees with.
So DEI for fascists.
Well, look, again, they get so triggered by the word fascist. You've heard me defend it in this context, and God, if this ain't textbook.
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
I mean, this is textbook, right? But okay, but let's protect their sensitive feelings and call nationalism. And he proudly says he is a nationalist and that the left is trying to make nationalism sound bad. Yeah, because there was a guy who called himself a nationalist named Adolf Hitler that went in the wrong direction. We're not saying Hegseth is Hitler yet, but Hitler called himself a nationalist, and that's not a great role model. That's why we're concerned about that word. But if you only use that one word, it could mean a lot of different things. But when he says we should be Christian nationalists, we should do a holy war against everyone who disagrees with us, and we should use the military inside America, both US and Israel is military, and then target our political enemies, don't allow them to have democracy, redraw the line so they can't possibly win, even if they have a majority. Well, he's saying, why don't we just end America and make it a Christian nationalist nightmare. Oh, gee, I wonder why we're opposed to it.
Yeah, he's arguably the worst person that could hold this position. I mean, if you're worried about the worst case scenario under a Donald Trump, him getting in, him being nominated at all is an indication that that is closer than we might think. And I love the idea that Democrats getting to 51% is unacceptable. They didn't even get to 50%. But they think they should be able to fundamentally remake what America is. And they want to gerrymander the House so they can never lose. They already have, the Electoral College already advantages them. They already have a massive advantage in the Senate just baked into the structure of it. And thanks to both of those things, they automatically have an advantage in choosing Supreme Court justices. The House might literally be the last thing that they haven't fully manipulated to their own benefit. And they're already a long way along that path because of the gerrymandering that already exists and that they will never fight against. It's madness.
No, I know that most of the right-wing populace will never see any of this, right? Because right-wing media will tell them, oh, Hegseth is pro-America, man. Yeah, he's strong. He was in the military, man. Yeah, he's got a good Christian cross, man. Oh, he's so good, yeah, man. So right-wing media, you're gonna lie about this guy? This guy who hates democracy and literally wrote it down in his book? You're gonna lie about him, aren't you? You're gonna leave out all those facts, aren't you, right? So most of the right-wingers are never gonna find out this guy actually hates democracy. And so when you find out though, and he institutes what he is describing, you know what it sounds like, what he's describing? Literally it sounds like tyrannical government. Using the military to come in here, arrest your political enemies, and institute military rule and end democracy. That's the tyrannical government you were worried about. And your boy here, Pete Hegseth, is the one promising it to you. Yeah. So if you hear this news, understand he is not on your side. He's on the side of whatever particular ludicrous religious beliefs he has. And by the way, if you think, oh, so what? I'm a Christian, I don't mind that. Yeah, what type of Christian are you? Because he's a different kind of Christian. Is it gonna be your kind that wins or his kind that wins? Do you know all of his crazy religious beliefs? Do they match yours? Are you sure that they match yours? Are you Presbyterian? Are you Episcopalian? Are you Southern Baptist? Do you know which of those he is, right? Or is he not gonna give a damn about any of that and just go, it's my holy war?
Yeah.
And I'll do whatever I like and I'll call it God's idea. Sure, brother. That's exactly how tyranny starts.
Okay, why don't we take our last break of the hour, more on the other side.
All right, so let's go to Super Chat, guys. Woman AF says the IDF was arresting Americans who don't support Israeli behavior. They'd be arresting a lot of right-wingers too, a lot of Americans in general. Yeah, that's right, tons of right-wing populists now do not agree with sending endless money to Israel. But hey, mess around and find out. Pete Hegseth might get the IDF to arrest you.
Yeah, don't tweet about it.
Yeah, should be careful what you say about Israel because they're now firmly in charge. I'm not saying it, I'm quoting Pete Hegseth's book. He says, I can't wait to turn Americans into the Israeli military, okay? On a not much lighter note, Cher Shepard said, today's my daughter's birthday. She turned us on to TYT several years ago. Please shout out to Lynn. Happy birthday, Lynn. Okay,
happy birthday.
Love this community. John Morton asks, or Yonam, I'm not sure. Do these MAGAs read a history book? Those who fought the Crusades didn't win after 7 tries. That's why they went to the Americas. So it is kind of, but you know that's part of what they're bitter about. They're like, oh God, those goddamn Muslims beat us in the Crusades. It's like a redemption game for them, right? They're like, oh, one more time, 8 times a charm, okay? So my EBAD says prosecutors should be investigated. Many times they twist the law to go after average citizens and later a state Supreme Court overturns it. But brother, if you got a corrupt prosecutor like Pam Bondi who's selling you out on behalf of foreclosure companies, yeah, show me the evidence and goddamn right, let's go after him. But just saying, oh, prosecutors who did their jobs and investigated either my daddy Donald Trump or my donor daddies, well, I'm gonna fire you or arrest you. Well, that's the exact opposite of America, right? So you've got to be able to make that distinction. Peter Parker says, I don't agree with a lot of your views, but you were absolutely right when you hilariously cooked Alan Lichtman over his keys. Have a good night, Cenk. Oh, well, Spider-Man, it's good to have you on our side, and I appreciate you. And thank you for having an open mind. Now let's go to YouTube members. Roxanne Tinch said, these cabinet picks are abysmal and terrifying. Yeah, I agree. It's funny though, because I heard online that I was turning into a right-winger. Not sure that they got the right memo. Okay, Victoria Smith says, I discovered TYT after the end of Trump's last term. So thankful to have you guys weather the storm with this time around. Victoria, we're always here for you, 100%. Miss Walker 801 says, been following TYT since the early 2000s in college. That's awesome. Kevin Shea says, I may need to just turn off the news for the next 4 years. Kevin, don't do that. First of all, you're gonna miss a wild, interesting 4 years. And not just because, oh, they're in charge, so it's gonna be crazy. No, I think the most unpredictable things in the world are gonna happen in the next 4 years. I think there's a realignment coming. I think the whole politics is gonna be topsy-turvy. And trust me, we're gonna cover it for you guys honestly, accurately, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun even covering it. And then we'll get angry at times. All right. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and then these beautiful people. Sam Monica gifted 5 memberships. Exululamas and Bruce Salazar gifted 1. You guys are amazing. We appreciate you guys. Tachlichte Nazist mit Stefan wrote in, love both these hosts. Right back at you, Stefan. I like to have fun with the German pronunciations. And Ishanti wrote, hey y'all, hello to everyone's dog. And I enjoyed that. That's a YouTube member. Those are both YouTube members. And if you haven't checked it out yet, go to tyt.com/hope. There's a populist revolution, okay, and join it. It's the pictures of our puppies, kittens, and other pets. There's horses and bunnies and stuff. It's not relevant at all. It's not gonna actually lead to a revolution. You're just gonna look at super cute pets and your day's going to be better. Okay, that's what happens. I'm going to it like 2-3 times a day. Everybody's posting their pets like crazy. I put up meowsers there. So check it out at tyt.com/hope. Hello to everyone's dog. Okay, yes. John.
Okay, let's jump into it. The judge overseeing Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial announced earlier today that sentencing will be postponed indefinitely. We don't know exactly how long, but I'm guessing for the rest of time. That's what it's looking like. And it actually even gets worse than that, which we'll get into. Bear in mind if you're not familiar with this, and if you're not and you voted, but anyway, he was convicted in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records over payments made to his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, to reimburse a $130,000 hush money payment made to adult film star Stormy Daniels to keep her from speaking out about an alleged affair before the 2016 election. So we had been waiting to find out what the penalty for that would be, and sentencing had been scheduled literally months ago. But Judge Juan Merchan announced today that the Trump legal team's request to delay it indefinitely is going to be allowed, and that on top of that, he's going to allow them to file a motion to dismiss the case entirely. That's due by the 2nd, and then at some point he'll respond to it, but it is certainly looking like we're never gonna get justice out of this, which really isn't a surprise to a lot of people, I don't think, but it's becoming more official with every sitting moment. Now I want to give you 2 statements. One from Trump lawyer Todd Blanche, who many people thought might be the AG, said, just as a sitting president is completely immune from any criminal process, so too is President Trump as president-elect. Which I don't think that's based on literally anything, but I do like the hint at least that Donald Trump could begin shooting people now and he'd be perfectly fine from prosecution. And Stephen Chung, Trump's spokesperson, said, All of the sham lawfare attacks against President Trump are now destroyed, and we are focused on making America great again. So it's great that Stephen Chung is having a good day.
Yeah, so John, this is a tough one. Why is it a tough one? Because what are they gonna do? Put the president in prison? And yeah, he deserves it and he should be sentenced and he shouldn't be above the law. But we all know they're not gonna do that. So, but then if you don't do it, and now Jack Smith is gonna drop the other cases, which I think is a mistake. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. Well, then you are saying, oh, we were just doing this for politics. And now that he won, we never meant any of these cases. We're just gonna drop them all. So this is a no-win situation, and it's brought to you by the incompetent, weak, useless Merrick Garland, who started these trials way too late. And again, we're not Monday morning quarterback. We said in the beginning, why isn't he going? Why isn't he going? And in New York as well, Alvin Bragg, why isn't he going? You can go back and look at my old tapes of me saying the coward of the country, Alvin Bragg. Get going. If you're gonna charge him, you have to charge him in the beginning, not near the end. And they waited for 2.5 years. I guess it was political. I guess they didn't care at all. They were all just goddamn liars who don't care about the law and just wanted to use it against Trump for politics. And now that it didn't work, they're like, who cares? Just drop them all. And it's infuriating.
Yeah, I agree they're in a difficult position, but I don't have a lot of empathy for them. I think America's in a far more difficult position. I mean, we're all sitting here wondering what laws are still gonna mean anything going forward, but I don't think we need to look to the future. Most of our laws don't matter now. Not when it's a billionaire who has violated them. Crimes count, I guess, unless you're popular. I guess unless tens of millions of people like you, then you can do literally anything you want. And that's not me saying that. That's the judicial system saying that. And that's already true. And so we know it's gonna get darker from where we're at. Our starting point is already deeply unjust, which makes me even more worried about now that he knows there's not even a hope of consequences. What won't Donald Trump do at this point?
Well, that's the number one concern that I had after the election. One of the things that I said is, look, a lot of people freaked out. We're going to leave the country, etc. I wasn't in that camp, as you guys know from election night. I'm always in the camp of let's fight back, let's be fair, let's figure out what's going to happen, best strategy going forward, etc. But one thing you have to be realistic about is there are no more brakes in the car, right? So there is no accountability at all. Not only is he immune from the law while he's president, now they're going to drop all the charges against him before he goes into office. None of the impeachments worked, none of the indictments worked, none of the convictions worked, nothing worked. So if you think, Donald Trump will be worried that they'll impeach him or try him, no, he won't. Of course he won't. That's ridiculous. So if he decides to go in the wrong direction, there's nothing that can stop him. So that is deeply concerning. Yeah. And so back to Jack Smith, no, brother, if you believed in those cases, and I definitely believe in those cases, you go forward and make Trump end the cases.
Yeah.
Because then that way he is corrupt and he's ending the perfectly legitimate federal case against him. But if you drop it before he gets into office, it looks like you're dropping it because of political reasons.
100%.
So these Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, all these guys, useless.
Super fast. I don't want to play devil's advocate for him. Is it possible that if he winds it down, he has control over what information might be released, but if he hangs on and Pam Bondi just throws his ass out the front door, then he can't release information, he can't release evidence or whatever?
No, I don't know why that would be the case at all. Look, I'm not discounting the possibility that there's something I haven't thought of. And look, Jack Smith is not Merrick Garland. Jack Smith is a professional prosecutor. He just got put on the case too late. And I disagree with this decision. But it's possible that Jack Smith knows something I don't know. Yeah. But having said that, barring a legal precedent I'm not familiar with, this looks like a bad decision.
I agree.
They should force Trump to end his own prosecutions.
I agree. Final, was it not Jack Smith who chose to have the classified documents case be adjudicated by Eileen Cannon? Did he decide to do that?
No, he chose not to do it in DC, and she got randomly assigned to it.
Randomly assigned, okay. Well, yes, okay. Still, that didn't end up helping out much, but.
No, it didn't, because Cannon is enormously corrupt and will do anything for Trump. So she stands a pretty decent chance of being on the Supreme Court.
Also, it was locations in DC that got robbed. So arguably that should be where the case was adjudicated. But anyway, do you want to quickly do this?
Yes.
I don't know how much time we have, but we'll do what we can. Whenever you're ready, jump into it.
First of all, food and water cut off, a humanitarian crisis and destruction there.
Shannon, as far as I'm concerned, Israel can bounce the rubble in Gaza.
Yeah, so don't expect much empathy out of Tom Cotton for what's going on in Gaza right now, but he is like one of the most notorious brainless allies of whatever Israel choose to do in our Senate. And yeah, his comments are pretty reprehensible. He has hinted, as we'll get into, that we might need to invade other allies of ours to help out Israel. So again, deeply anti-war side of the aisle there. But I want to remind you what this is all coming from. So if you weren't familiar, yesterday arrest warrants were issued by the ICC against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the former Israeli defense minister, as well as an apparently deceased Hamas military commander. And so for the first two Israeli officials, the ICC found reasonable grounds to believe that they, quote, each bear criminal responsibility for the following crimes as co-perpetrators for committing the acts jointly with others: the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare, and the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution, and other inhumane acts. It also found reasonable grounds to believe that, quote, each bear criminal responsibility as civilian superiors for the war crime of intentionally directing an attack against the civilian population, which of course has taken the lives of tens of thousands of civilians. So that's the background for this. Tom Cotton is so angered by what the ICC did that he tweets this: the ICC is a kangaroo court and Karim Khan is a deranged fanatic. Woe to him and woe to him. Oh, big man, Tom Cotton. Woe to him and anyone who tries to enforce these outlaw warrants. Let me give them all a friendly reminder. The American law on the ICC is known as the Hague Invasion Act for a reason. Think about it, and they should, because he didn't. But anyway, he's not wrong that it is named that, called that. The law is technically the American Service Members Protection Act of 2002, and so it was signed in sort of the close aftermath of 9/11 to intimidate any countries that ratified the ICC and to scare them away from doing that. That was the goal anyway. It wasn't super successful. But that law authorized the use of military force to liberate any American or citizen in a US allied country being held by the court, which is located in The Hague. So they called it that, implying that in theory, were they to drag someone in front of The Hague, the American military would storm the beaches and attack Holland or whatever. This is madness. I don't expect anything more out of Tom Cotton, but what do you make of it?
So he's saying if Holland arrests Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of a foreign government, that the American military should invade Holland to get Israel's leader back to safety from the war crime charges that he faces for killing 44,000 people, including over 25,000 women and children who are all innocent. But this war criminal is so important to America, we should invade a NATO ally, destroy the entire alliance, and declare war on them. What part of this is anti-war? And what part of this is America first? So he's saying, no, Israel first. I mean, it's literally what he is suggesting. Israel first. Use the US military to invade frickin' Holland on behalf of Israel. Well, obviously not America first, obviously,
no.
Right? But here's a note of encouragement, guys. So I know that a lot of you won't believe me, and I know almost no one else on the left believes me, but you could actually go read it for yourself. So when I posted this on X last night, tons, hundreds and hundreds of right-wing populists saying, he's not one of us. He's a neocon. And we know he's a neocon, and F Tom Cotton. So that is a super interesting development. And so I'm not telling you this because I've always told you this. No, I've always told you that in my experience, the Republicans that I've dealt with were never, like the leaders, the politicians, never honest, never. Media, never honest, right? And unfortunately that affected their voters. So, but right now, there's a different kind of right-wing media, and it's loosely, like, there's many different factions. But one of the big factions is the bros. And the bros are not your old Republicans, and they're not your old MAGA, right? and they are, and you are gonna hate some of their ideas, right? So when they say America first, they actually mean America first, and some of that you'll hate, right? But when they're seeing guys like Tom Cotton and others say, no, Israel first, we should do all the wars for Israel, we should give them $30 billion. They're not, like, I'm not seeing a lot of humanitarians in there like, oh my God, my heart breaks for the Palestinian people. A couple, but not that many. I'm keeping it real, okay? But universally, they're like, no, we said it in anti-war. We're anti-war. I don't know what part of that is hard for your stupid head to understand, Tom Cotton. Wait one cotton picking minute here.
Oh my God.
We said anti-war, okay?
We were aiming there from the start.
Okay. Oh, so you didn't cotton to it?
Okay. Anyway, okay, I get what you're saying. Do they think that Trump sees that tweet and he's like, that's unacceptable? Like,
no, that's the other interesting part. Now, not all of them, not necessarily even most of them, but a lot of them are saying, yeah, Trump's problematic on Israel. Like they can see, see.
Do they like?
Yeah, he's clearly selling out to Israel.
He's filling his cabinet with warmongers, and Pete Hegseth has been advocating.
I did another tweet. All right,
okay, good.
No, listen. When I did another post where I said, you know that Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, Mike Waltz, and Mike Huckabee are Team Miriam. They're Israel first, not America first. Again, read the comments. Wall-to-wall right-wing populists. Some of them going, oh no, BS, I don't believe you, blah, blah, blah. But a majority going, yeah, we know it sucks. And so Trump sucks on that, and let's see what happens. Okay, all right, maybe for the first time in my life, we might actually be having a nonpartisan conversation. So let's see what happens, and let's hope that I'm right. Usually I say I do a prediction, and I go, I hope I'm wrong. In this case, I hope I'm right. Okay, guys, everybody check out Damage Report. Excellent show by John every morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, obviously. We got a whole nother great hour coming up for you guys. Come right back.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reformed, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
Drop it like it's all of Trump's prosecutions. All right, look at this fun power panel, and we're all in the house. Okay, Cenk Uygur, Ben Gleib, Michael Schur with you guys. Check out Ben on Rebel Headquarters. And Greer Barnett 11 and Hito DeCambia. Thank you for joining through tyt.com/team, which you're getting 20% off monthly membership today. So it's a great time to do it. Everybody jump on there, tyt.com/team. Thank you guys. All right, Ben, you got news for us.
We do indeed. I think this clip might speak for itself to kick us off.
Behind the scenes, the Trump team has been playing hardball, and they've been giving an ominous warning to any Senate Republicans who might oppose his nominees. One Trump advisor telling our John Carl that the message is, quote, if you are on the wrong side of the vote, you're buying yourself a primary. That is all. And there's a guy named Elon Musk who is going to finance it. The Trump advisor added the president gets to decide his cabinet, no one else.
That's right. Yesterday, ABC News reported that Trump's team is threatening to sic Elon Musk, just the richest man in the world, that's all, on any Republican senator who dares oppose his brilliant cabinet appointments. And they're flawless appointments. We have to say that now legally for fear of being thrown into some sort of illegal prison. But this isn't the first time we've heard a report like this. Last week, journalist Lauren Windsor posted the following. A senator told me that the rumor on the Hill is that Elon Musk is threatening to fund a primary challenge to any House Republican who doesn't fall in line with Trump's agenda. That threat happens to have a lot of money behind it. And only a few days after the election, if you don't think this is a real thing, Musk himself wrote of his America PAC. Normally, PACs go somewhat dormant after a big election. At America PAC is going to do the opposite and keep grinding, increasing Republican registrations in key districts around the country in preparation for special elections and the midterms. Following up with, and of course, play a significant role in primaries. But what's so interesting about the story is also that Musk's threat hasn't worked out, at least so far. Matt Gaetz, Trump's pick for Attorney General, due simply to his incredible qualifications, didn't last 2 weeks before he had to withdraw. According to the New York Times, Gaetz' decision to drop out was based on 4 other Senate Republicans opposed to his nomination: Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, and John Curtis. Thankfully, McConnell unfroze long enough to make that stance very clear. You kind of, to get things past McConnell these days, you kind of have to bank on an impromptu freeze. And when he's fully live action, well, he's a wild card. Cenk?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I got mixed feelings on this. So let me explain. Number one, I believe in political bullying. Okay, I believe in carrots and sticks, and you sometimes got to play hardball. So I always think shoe on the other foot. So let's say that Bernie Sanders had won in 2016 and 2020. He's made me the enforcer. I would say vote against us at your peril. We will make sure that we spend every ounce of energy we have in defeating you in primaries. That is a logical step if you want to advance your agenda. On the other hand, now let us note the incredible irony of the Republicans saying, let's drain the swamp and hand the government over to our biggest donor. And if you cross our biggest donor, he will then eliminate you from politics by using his big money. So who cares about your stupid votes? We got this money, Mr. Moneybags over here, and he's gonna eliminate anyone who doesn't agree with him. And gee, I wonder what he's gonna push for. Maybe extra advantages for his businesses. No, I'm sure he never would, right? And now, if you're right winger and you don't believe in you think Elon Musk is an angel and there's no way and this all makes sense, and let me ask you if the shoe was on the other foot in the other direction. And let's say Biden had won and said, you know what? George Soros is now in charge of government efficiency. He will get to cut whatever programs he likes, add whatever programs he likes. And if you dare oppose Joe Biden, George Soros will eliminate you politically. He will spend so much of his money, you'll have no chance. Would you be cool with it? Be careful how you answer. Would you be cool with it? Okay, you know that if you're a right winger, you wouldn't be cool with that, but now you're cool with Elon Musk, one of the largest owners in American political history, getting to basically run the whole country.
They're not cool with it happening even when it's not happening from George Soros, and they believe it's happening. So imagine if it was.
Yeah, even when he isn't doing that and they think he is, that's right.
But he controls everything, and that's why they won.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, what happened to that too? Yeah. What happened to the all-powerful Soros?
Right. One thing, first takeaway, how did nobody have the name America PAC until this year with Elon Musk? You think that name would have been taken already?
Great point.
Just has nothing to do with anything here. John Curtis is the newly elected senator. He has Mitt Romney's seat in Utah. Matt Gaetz supported his primary. So did Donald Trump, the person who primaried him. He was not even elected, right? I mean, this was an open seat. Lisa Murkowski won as a write-in candidate. Primarying Lisa Murkowski, probably not a successful track. And then the other is Susan Collins. If Susan Collins gets primaried, the Democrat's gonna win. After 2028, if Collins doesn't win her reelection, it's gonna be a Democratic seat up there for a very long time. These are not the wisest people after whom to go. But the point is, what he's doing is political bullying. It's also politics, right? It's like, if you don't do this, we're gonna do this. So call our bluff, do it, and then see if we can beat you. I don't have a problem with it necessarily, but it is, again, what Cenk just said about money in politics, about draining the swamp. It is hypocritical, but hypocrisy seems to be a winning formula in America today.
There's a lot of ways to drain a swamp. They weren't specific. One way to drain a swamp is to put so many bodies in there that the swamp water just bounces out.
Right.
Hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
Archimedes
promises
principle.
Made, promises kept.
Eureka. Okay, so good luck to us all. By the way, there is one way that I would use a similar model, which is, and this was one of the original ideas behind Wolfpack, which never raised anywhere near enough money. But if you raise all the money and then you use it, ironically, to get money out of politics. So I'll just real quick example. We in Connecticut, we spent a lot on a local race, and all the local, and it was in a Democratic primary, and the Democrats were upset. The local press was upset, of course, and they're like, isn't this ironic that you claim to have a group that wants to get money out of politics, so you put money in politics here? I said, I know. So the way that you would stop that is to get money out of politics. Okay, so go ahead. And if we had enough money, if we had an Elon Musk-like figure, if George Soros was what the right wing actually thinks he is, right? And he actually wanted to get money out of politics, which he most certainly does not, okay? We could use that money to say, hey, if you don't get our money out, you're screwed. We're gonna eliminate all you guys, right? But of course, nobody wants to do that. Instead, they wanna use the money to further their business interests. Of course!
And sadly, that really is so much the truth of it, is that our vote is still very important, but it's so weakened. It only really applies and matters in that we can create systemic change one day, theoretically, if we put enough people in that will get the money out, that will be fiercely against corruption, against the outsized, insane influence of dark money in our politics. Money is what controls it. Our vote moves things around the margins, and you hope that you can one day make enough change. But it is true, regardless of what side wins, it's money that decides. It's the richest people in this country that decide what happens. And it's just a battle of billionaires. And the fact that people are okay with it, some degree don't realize it, some degree have their blinders on and don't want to see it, but it is not, this is a kleptocracy a lot more than it is a democracy these days.
It's a little bit of Hunger Games. If the rich don't support you and they don't help you out in the middle of the Hunger Games, you're toast. So, but don't worry, I'm sure Elon has your best interest in mind. He would never even think about his own interest. I mean, the fact that he's already listed all the regulators who regulate his business as the ones that should be fired. No concern at all for your benefit. Of course, same with George Soros, always for your benefit.
And Hunger Games style is exactly right, because they misuse their great slogan, their tagline in that movie, "May the odds be ever in your favor." What they really mean is the odds will never be in your favor. May random dumb luck be in your favor if you happen to pull the one out of many thousands on that wheel, because the odds are in the favor of the people who get to put their chips on lots of numbers.
Yeah.
And we'll also see, by the way, quickly, if Elon Musk is not out for himself when it comes to China, because he and Donald Trump come from totally different points of view on China. Elon needs China. So you'll see that Elon is all about himself when it comes to China.
Yeah, that's another very interesting point, because I listened, very tortuously to all 3 hours of Elon's appearance on Rogan before the election. Listened to it after the election. Thank God, otherwise I probably would have voted him. But the only point literally that he made for Trump the entire time of 3 hours, the only thing he argued for was this insane argument that if the Democrats win, there will never be an election again because they're bringing in so many illegals. They're going to somehow give them the right to vote, and it's going to never be an election like you had before. The only argument for, the argument against, when Rogan asked him the only medium tough political question during the interview was, what do you think about tariffs? And Elon Musk was like, tariffs are actually really bad and could really affect business, and they can crush business because if you don't have enough lead time to know where your supply chain, they're going to be able to affect it. So I really hope that doesn't happen, but go Trump. I mean, what? Based upon what?
No, that's what I'm telling you. The next 4 years are going to be amazing, because there's so many different conflicting interests here, and Donald Trump is not a man known to have principles. So let's see what happens. Anything can happen. All right, we'll be right back. All right, let's go to YouTube members first. Shawnee Flan says, gotta admit, I love the way Ben mispronounces Elon's name. That's fun. Ramon says, this stuff is just goofy. Why are our politicians considering invading Holland? WTF. Well, you can say that about Tom Cotton in a lot of ways. THX1138C says, much love to all who work behind the scenes to make TYT a success. Love you all. Thank you for saying that. And I'll quadruple that.
That seems excessive.
A little much, to be fair. And then I quadrupled that way too much. Yeah. Okay. No, seriously, thanks for thinking of them. And lots of wonderful folks work here, and they make all this possible, like you guys do, the members do. Thank you. Shanti says, hey, just watch you on Don Lemon, Cenk. I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. Dutch Antifa Dragon says, TYT, please, I live in Netherlands, not Holland. I know, brother. The only reason why we're saying Holland is because that's what Tom Cotton said.
You can't say Holland anymore?
No, Holland, of course you can, but Holland is within Netherlands.
I thought Holland and Netherlands were interchangeable.
Yeah, I know, growing up it did feel that way, but no, Netherlands is the country and Holland is a part of Netherlands.
There's an
issue, yeah. Well, there's like that Jerry and George, Jerry Seinfeld, where he's like, what, is it Holland or the Netherlands? And he says, it's the Netherlands. He said, I thought it was Holland. And then George says, well, then who are the Dutch?
Let alone Dutch Antifa dragon. Right, yeah. So apparently that exists.
Exactly.
Confusing.
In fact, we're going to ask you about dragons in a poll in the next segment. NDH 101 says, thanks for helping us get through this nightmare. No problem, can do. Did it before. Dave Schmidt 311, thank you for the gifted membership as always. Hamilton Slade says, this is referring to the Lindsey Graham kissing Pam Bondi's ass. If there's anyone who loves a hole-in-one, it's Lindsey Graham. Wow, that's wrong.
Wow.
That's wrong. That's why I read it. Irish Fiddle Dragon says, I'm still giving money to Wolfpack. That's awesome. Keep it going, guys. Wolf-pack.com. Wolfpack's about to make a giant comeback, okay? It's gonna try to unite the populace. So, and only one issue, doesn't care about Democrat or Republican, just cares about getting money out of politics, okay? That's it. And so if you love that idea, go join them, whether you're left wing, right wing, or independent. Wolf-pack.com. Progressive Fossil Fuel says, hi everyone. When I was a kid watching the news and reading the newspapers, I was always dismayed that other governments were so unhinged for all the world to see. I know, oops, and here we are. So that's how it's gone these days.
Holland is only 40% of the population of the Netherlands and only 2 of 12 provinces, apparently.
And it's a lot like England and the United Kingdom. England is a part of the United Kingdom. Funkin' for Fun says about Lindsey Graham, humiliation has to be a lot of politicians' kink. All right, back on TYT, Jank, Ben, and Michael with you guys. And Dialysis 56, fascinating username, but thank you for hitting the join button. We appreciate it. And Ramon, thank you for gifting 20 memberships on YouTube. You guys are amazing. Ben.
In a world where truth is in question and disappearing rapidly, I turn to my favorite source of truth for the only facts you can count on, and that's The View.
We went from Walter Cronkite basically to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons? He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like I guess like dinosaur-y type of animals, roamed the earth when people did.
On yesterday's episode of The View, Joy Behar suggested that Joe Rogan is not reliable and trustworthy news source because he believes in dragons. We'll get into the context of Rogan's comments in a second and show you a clip, but first, let's really dive into where this came from. The panel was discussing a new Pew Research Center poll about Americans' experiences with social media news influencers. Take a look at this chart right here. About 1 in 5 Americans regularly get their news from news influencers. 21%, 51% don't, and 28% don't get it from social media at all. Let alone the influencers. And breaking it down even further, almost 4 in 10 US adults under age 30 get their news from influencers. You can see right there, 21% for all US adults, but approximately 37% of 18 to 29-year-olds and 26% of 30 to 49-year-olds. The percentages go down from there. Rogan has very well made a name for himself in the news sphere. According to Apple's most popular podcast of 2024, the Joe Rogan Experience was 3rd top show, #1 most followed show, 5th most shared episode with his interview with Trump, and was the 2nd top episode with his Trump interview. And Joy Behar does not like that, so let's watch a little bit more from The View.
Well, I'd like to do a little PSA that just because you saw it on one of these social media sites does not make it true. Right. So circulating posts and then having people say, is that real? Like when you see something, you have to source it. You have to check and then check again. When you see something that really pisses you off, you should triple check that one.
Yeah. But I think that that's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News. But
we're checked by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
The human legal note?
But we went from Walter Cronkite basically to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons? He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, I guess like dinosaur type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out there.
Yes, it's a real serious news source when Joy Behar says, we have our own legal department right here, and the audience bursts in laughter. So there is that perspective as well. Is The View trustworthy news? Let's see about that. Take a look at this clip.
I think that Kamala Harris has been running a flawless campaign, and that's why she raised billions of dollars.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some less.
I think Barack Obama was an earnest politician.
I've known Joe 30, 40 years. He doesn't always say the right thing the right way, but he gets stuff done. That's what I'm interested in. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you can't put two sentences together. I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go.
I love that Jon Stewart is back, but what's so offensive to me is there's a difference between age and intelligence. The problem with this country is that we don't value people with their wisdom. We don't value seniors. We don't value octogenarians. Okay, and I'm sick of this ageism problem.
According to Whoopi Goldberg, apparently, not being able to put a sentence together as the leader of the free world is not something that shows you can't do the job. Fascinating. But back to Rogan and his dragons, which apparently is disqualifying of his opinions. The claim Behar made came from a 2020 episode of JRE with wildlife biologist Forrest Gallant. Rogan was presented by his guest with an out there idea that he said some groups believe, which is that dragons, or a form of dragons, existed at one point along with humans. Gallant said these groups argue that depictions of dragon-like creatures exist in images across multiple cultures, and porous bones could keep what would have been a small group from fossilizing. The topic was then brought up again during an episode with comedian Adrian Palucci a few weeks back. Check this out.
Like I had this guy, Forrest Gallant. He's a wildlife biologist, and he thinks that there's a real possibility that dragons were an actual thing, and that.
Well, when they have lived, like when dinosaurs were around.
No, they lived alongside humans. That's why there's all these records and all these different cultures, and there's Chinese culture has dragons, Japanese culture has dragons, ancient Europeans have dragons. Like dragon is not a fire breathing. That seems to be. But maybe even...
What kind of, what would their purpose be?
Well, they're probably like a crocodile that flies. There was probably like more than one kind of really dangerous reptile that they called dragons, like Komodo dragons.
Right, Komodo dragons.
Giant lizard, they call it a dragon, right? Crocodiles, dragons. The question is whether or not one of them actually flew. Because we know that pterodactyls were a real thing. And if pterodactyls...
they probably were real then.
Nah. I think it's probably something like that, some kind of like enormous bird type creature.
If by dragon you mean dangerous, leathery creatures that blow hot air, we just reelected a president, so I think they are around. Rogan has since responded to Behar's comment by replying to a tweet where she calls him a dragon believer, saying, "That's my new official X description." And he did in fact change his bio on X to Joe Rogan, dragon believer. Interestingly, many, many moons ago, when I started my podcast Last Week on Earth, I asked Joe for advice, and he said to me, "Don't do a news podcast. Too hard to keep up with it, much too much work. Instead, he just did that and became one of the most trusted names in news.
This, by the way, is the best thing to ever happen to John Iadarola.
Oh, totally, exactly.
Like, this is
if
fantastic.
anyone had, believed in dragons, it would be the Dragon Squad
Right,
leader.
and the national legitimization of it is fantastic.
Yeah, dragons and humans do coexist on the damage report.
And Trump won despite JD Vance dragging the ticket down.
Oh, okay. So guys, we're gonna do a poll, and then I want to tell you my dragon theory and my view theory. So the poll is: what's more believable, dragons or Joe Biden was the best candidate in the country? And that is what the View also said and implied many, many times. So look, first on the View, you saw just a small collection of clips that we put together there, right? But they kept insisting Joe Biden's the best person to run against Donald Trump. Joe Biden's cognitive abilities are fine. And even if they're not fine and he's pooping in his pants, that he's still the best candidate we could possibly put forward. I find all of that as unbelievable as dragons living with humans. Okay, but
at least that's plausible.
What, the dragons?
Dragons.
See, right. Not
well, but except that, nothing has happened to disprove that they were right about Biden, right? I mean, well, thank you. That's all I need. I just needed that face. That's all. You don't even have to say anything. I just wanted the face. I got the face. Actually, can I leave now? Is it?
Okay, so before I get to my dragon theory, so for them to be smug about this and say like, oh, can you believe that there's misinformation in social media? But sisters, what have you been doing for the last year? Telling us about how that Joe Biden was amazing and cognitively fit, and then you saw the debate, and he was not in good cognitive shape. He was not any of the things that you guys claimed he was. So yeah, ABC News can't fact check your opinions, but your opinions were so biased, so overwhelmingly wrong. And by the way, has anybody there ever admitted it? Like, have they ever said like, oh yeah, our bad. Yeah, Biden was falling apart at the seams. It turns out Kamala Harris was not flawless. She had one flaw at least, losing the election. By the way, to a guy we said was fascist, Nazi, imbecile, criminal, rapist. But she still lost to him, but she still ran a flawless campaign? Well, okay, I'm gonna have to question you what you view to be facts, etc. Now, in terms of the dragons, this is fun. Look, no, they didn't, I would be very surprised if there was fire-breathing dragons ever. And I would be very, very, very surprised if they live with humans. But like, why do dragons exist in all these different cultures? So I've thought about that decades ago. And I think the answer is fairly simple. At some point, they ran into dinosaur fossils, right? They dug it up, and there's this giant head of this creature that they don't know what the hell it is 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. And they say, we'll call it a dragon. They don't know what a dinosaur is, right? And where did they make up that it flies and it breathes fire? Because it's a good story. And they probably based it on the fossils.
And there were things that flew, like he said, pterodactyls. The notion there may have been flying lizards, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people could look at Game of Thrones 100 years from now and say, look, they believed in dragons. Well, how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, it's in our culture, it's in Game of Thrones. It doesn't mean that we thought it happened yesterday, right? But so
turns out drawings on a wall aren't always factual. Sometimes they're stories.
Yeah. So look, we're doing the poll in the chat. I'm curious as to how it's going to come out. I couldn't quite see there. Oh, dragons is crushing. As more believable at 84 to 16.
It seems a little skewed. I don't know that that's scientific, but
well, okay.
We have our fact checkers here.
No, let me see. I've checked with the fact checkers. Yes, that poll is scientific.
Okay, that's fine.
But also, I mean, Biden was very clearly not cognitively okay even before the 2020 election. I mean, I was talking about that constantly. I'm sure you were. It was very clear he couldn't put two sentences together even before he was elected 4 years ago now. So
Ben, was that before or after the cannibals ate his uncle?
I think that was, according to his own speeches, same time.
Yeah.
And the whole leg hair situation too. People rubbed his leg hair, and that was a seminal moment that made him decide to run.
Yeah, so look, I was worried about his cognitive abilities in 2020, but a lot of people disagreed with me. We'll never know about 2020. We certainly know about 2024. But guys, that's not, look, the overall point is if you say there's things that are in social media that you should double check and that are not actually facts, of course, Alex Jones is in social media, verifiable lunatic. Bob on Facebook doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and he's not a legitimate source, right? And did Rogan get things wrong? Yes, he got plenty of things wrong, including about the vaccine, and we can go on and on. I don't want to trigger people by saying ivermectin, okay? But oh no, I just said it. Okay, but that doesn't mean you shut them down. And it doesn't mean that mainstream media has never gotten anything wrong. And it doesn't mean that even if they have fact checkers, that they don't frame issues in a way that is so biased that they don't even realize it's biased, right? And so that's why, like here, one last thing, and the thing that I always say, which is, you're telling me you guys in mainstream media are not biased.
The thing you always say, by the way, is one last thing.
That's also true. Apparently I say two last things. Okay, which is, you're telling me the politicians are honest and they're not affected by the billions of dollars they're getting in donations? That's the biggest lie of all. That beats Dragons in a landslide, wins all 50 states, okay? No, politicians are definitely affected by their donors and serve their donors way more than they serve their voters. And you could say that's opinion, okay, but 93% of Americans agree with me, and only 7% of Americans agree with mainstream media. And they find that lie to be so much worse than any other lie they've seen in social media. All right, we gotta take a break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so let's go to Super Chat first. Rage Rock for now says, after that montage of The View, I'll stick with TYT. Thank you, brother, appreciate it. Gabby Mathis says, at almost 70, I can see a progressive in 2028. Please, we lost Bernie in 16 because of the DNC. So Gabby, I'm working on it as we speak. That doesn't mean we're gonna get it, doesn't mean we're gonna win even if we get a great candidate, but if we get a great candidate, I think we're gonna be in excellent shape. So we'll see, we'll work on it, hope for the best here. Or we could let another establishment candidate run and see how that turns out. Okay, now you want to talk about depression, and to me that's depression.
Which progressive candidate will the DNC squash in 2028? Stay tuned.
We'll find out. Okay, the Autonomous Penguin, already fun name, says, would you guys ever consider a UK tour? You guys have a lot of fans over here and would love to hear your thoughts on our government. Great show as always. Thank you. You know, I prefer my penguins to be autonomous, so that's perfect. I can't stand those corporate robotic penguins. No, I love the UK. I would love to come.
Or at least let's just start with England only.
Okay, and we just don't have the money for a UK tour, not even close. No, the way that it usually works is you get like this giant sponsor, and this Young Turks tour, UK tour, brought to you by Raytheon. But alas, we're unlikely to get that kind of. One day we'll have the big giant sponsors of companies that do good in the world, like Aspiration. Go check out aspiration.com/TYT, but not yet, brother. Astronomy lover with beautiful hope that will go squashed, unfulfilled. Astronomy lover says, is it possible that if the cases against Trump and that are let go for now could be brought again when he's out of office? No, let it go. It's gone. It's gone. He's never going to get charged with anything.
I mean, it's a chance. It just won't happen.
Yeah,
it's not illegal or anything.
Yeah,
and the sentencing, I think, well, there'll be some sort of sentencing, I would guess, if he lives through his term.
If he lives through his term and they're sentencing at that, yeah.
I'm saying there's a greater chance of that because that's already on the books than the other.
Yeah, it's at least on the books. He was already convicted.
Yeah,
but again,
but he could also do something else between now and then, so there could be new charges and.
One day we'll have a democracy like Brazil.
Then Merrick Garland can come back. And
oh, please, please, I'm begging you, no. Okay, Dylan Madden says, Tom Cotton's an embarrassment. His beliefs are as for sale as Pam Bondi's have been. In 2016, Betsy DeVos donated to his campaign. He went to a public high school, and 90% of schools in Arkansas are public. Yeah, of course, he'll do anything for money. My eBat says Joe Biden should pardon his son, Trump, and the prosecutors that waged lawfare against Trump. Why not pardon Donald Trump, since the charges mean nothing now anyway? Well, I like the idea of pardoning Hunter Biden. In fact, we have free Hunter t-shirts on shoptyt.com, and they're so fun. People here love them. So check out Free Hunter. Path of the End says, Cenk, Bibi should be careful what he wishes for. He wanted Trump to win this election, but if his friends Putin and Elon bribe him enough, I mean, the corruption is so brazen, who knows who our allies will be in 4 years. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Ben, and Michael with you guys. Guys, I'm happy to report that over Thanksgiving, we will probably reach 30 billion views. So share our videos, help us get to that landmark, and then after the Thanksgiving break, I'll tell you if we made it or not. But it's kind of a cool moment. So, I mean, as Michael knows, he was there. We started in my 1-bedroom apartment off of Sunset with just a couple of mics on a desk, and now hopefully we're about to cross 30 billion views. So that's a hell of a thing. And I appreciate everyone who watched any of our videos. So let's get there soon. Love you guys.
Similarly, my Instagram's about to hit 1,000 views.
Okay, so hey, that's where we started. That's where we started. All right, Ben, you got the next story.
If this weren't the case, I'd be stunned beyond belief news. Since Trump's re-election, Democrats are less optimistic about the future of the party than any time in the last 8 years, according to a new Pew Research poll. But some of the stats I'm about to share with you in a moment will blow your mind. It also confirms what we saw before the election as well, that Americans have confidence in Trump's plans for the economy, while they think negatively about many parts of his incredibly weird and horrible personality. Roughly half, 51% of Democrats and independents who lean toward the party say they're optimistic, while 49% say they're pessimistic about its future. Democratic pessimism is up compared with both 2016, when 38% said they were feeling that way in the wake of Trump's first presidential victory, and in 2020, when 17% of Democratic-aligned adults described themselves as pessimistic after Biden's win in 2020. They also did not feel pessimistic after the 2018 and 2020 midterms. By contrast, 86% of Republican-aligned adults now call themselves optimistic about the GOP's future, up from 65% who said the same 2 years ago. Roughly 8 in 10 said they were optimistic following Trump's 2016 election, and 8 in 10 following his 2018 midterms, with 74% calling themselves optimistic after Biden's 2020 victory. I think speaking to the great optimism / twisting of reality / delusion of today's Republican Party, even in the face of great loss. They feel amazing about how their party's going. That kind of confidence really pushes things through. By contrast, again, Democratic pessimism this year is particularly pronounced among younger members of the party, with 55% of Democratic-aligned adults younger than 50 taking a negative view of the party's future, compared with 39% among their older counterparts. Overall, half of US adults say that the Republican Party represents their interests at least somewhat well, modestly higher than the 43% who currently say the same of the Democratic Party. While the Democratic Party standing on this metric is largely unchanged from July 2023, the GOP number is up 11 percentage points over that time. That shift, Pew finds, is due almost wholly to Republican-aligned adults' increasingly positive assessments of their party. Just over half approve of his plans for the future, think he will make good economic decisions, that one's 59%, will effectively handle law enforcement and criminal justice and make good decisions on immigration and foreign policy. All of those at 53 or 54%. But these next poll results are especially mind-blowing to me. Fewer express confidence in Trump to make good decisions on abortion policy. It's mind-blowing because of how high these numbers still are. 45% express confidence still in his ability to make good decisions on abortion policy or to bring the country closer together. 41% think he will. Less than half of the public thinks Trump is well described as someone who cares about the needs of ordinary people, but still 45% do. Or somehow somebody who's honest, 42% think he's honest. Even-tempered, 37% think this man is even-tempered, and 34% think he is a good role model. It is mind-boggling, even in the categories that you could prove it with tens of thousands of data points. They still think, yeah, great guy, cares about us, honest man, great role model. Mind-boggling. Overall, half of Americans express positive feelings about Trump's election victory, with 22% saying they're excited, 28% saying they're relieved, while the rest say they're disappointed, 33%, or angry, 15%. In a separate question, about 1/3 expressed surprise about his win, meaning 2/3 of the country had a feeling this was going Trump's way. Those numbers are just the most mind-boggling to me, the people that still think positively in the great numbers about this man.
So I have interpretations that are maybe a little bit different than the average bear, and I'm curious what your guys' takes are gonna be. So first of all, I'm ecstatic that more people are pessimistic about the Democratic Party. Why? I'm a Democrat, why would I be happy about that? It's because I think the Democratic Party has been going in the wrong direction for a long time. So if most of the Democratic voters, or now at least half the Democratic voters, have become pessimistic about its direction, good, because then maybe you could change the direction so we can actually win elections rather than getting our asses handed to us by frickin' Trump, right? So I would want that number to be as high as possible so we go in a new direction. Now, secondarily, and this might be even more surprising to you guys, I don't know, we'll find out. I think that 74% saying that they were optimistic about the Republican Party, even after Trump lost in 2020. I mean, that's, Ben, you're right to be shocked by that number. That is a gigantic number. My theory on that is because they already did a revolt inside the Republican Party, and they kicked out the corporate Republican guys like Mitch McConnell, etc. So their voters, even when they lose, they feel optimistic because they feel like they're running the party. Now you could say, hey, Cenk, well, that's not really true because Trump is still giving most of the the goodies to his donors like Elon Musk and Miriam Adelson and corporate tax cuts, etc. But they feel like they're in charge. That's why they're optimistic, even in really bad times for them. Let alone now, it's at 86%. Which brings me to the last thing here. I want you guys to note that only 34% think that Donald Trump is a good role model. That's a very low number overall. I mean, and Ben's right, it's still high given who Trump is, but that's a very bad number overall. But still, 86% of Americans say optimistic, going in the right direction, even though a lot of them think he's a bad role model, right? And so it's in other numbers here, and it matches everything that I've seen from the right wing, with a lot of people saying, look, guys, it's not like we don't get it. Now, a lot of them don't believe that at all. They think he's honest, etc. But there is a significant portion of Republicans who think, yeah, guys, we get it. He's a jerk. He's a bully. He says things he shouldn't say. But we like the direction that he's going rather than the direction you're going. So that should cause some self-reflection on our part, instead of just saying, oh, it's wild, it's wacky, it's crazy. Oh, forget MAGA, they're nuts. No, they're not nuts. It's telling. And it should be a note to us to learn from.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I talk to, Trump supporters I talk to out there, a lot of them say, well, I don't like his way, I don't like the way he speaks, the words he uses, whatever. But I like him, and I think he's a better president. I would never vote for the Democrat, which is, it's fine. I think it's a thing to say that's convenient. I'm a little more dismissive of a poll like this. Pew is a great, the Pew research has been so helpful to this country. I think taking a poll within weeks after an election You have people justifying what they've just done. You have people, hurt, upset. You have people excited and victorious. I just think it's bad timing. I'm not a pollster. They know it better than I. But I would love to read their work a year from now rather than right after an election where people are trying to justify what they just did. I am shocked too, 34% see him as a good role model. But, we were just listening to Whoopi Goldberg saying that she likes a president who can't put two sentences together. That doesn't matter to her. The idea
One sentence.
One sentence. The president, the idea of the president being a role model may be all of a sudden old-fashioned now. And I don't know that that's true, and I don't know that that's good, and I don't know that will endure. But I think that's part of what's at play here with that 34% number, which I think is wildly high for Donald Trump, but wildly low for a U.S. president.
Yeah, facts. I mean, it's just mind-boggling that even, because pretty much 34% has always been around what Trump's core support is. And those people, generally speaking, think he's just the best, think he's perfect, and don't process any of the problems. I mean, it really speaks so deeply to like the QAnon phenomenon of people that just deeply believe that it's all a conspiracy, it's all media making these things up, it's all lawfare, and it's all media warfare against this guy, and they are the enemy of the people, and they're making up facts because and a preponderance of overwhelming facts never process. I mean, in any number of categories, sexual assault allegations, civil court sexual assault convictions, court convictions for illegal use of funds, for trying to undermine the vote of the people, creating an insurrection, any number of enormous things, multiple marriages, multiple affairs, not one of them even affects their opinion of should our children look up to his personality and the way he's lived his life as an example.
In this very religious country we live in, too, and the most religious among us are the ones who supported him the most, fervently.
It's a wild cognitive dissonance. I don't understand it.
So those are all absolutely correct. But let's also note one other thing, which is in most of the polls, and I talked a lot about this over the last 4 years, there's a shocking percentage of the country that believes QAnon. It was about 15% at its height. I mean, they basically stopped polling it, and Q stopped sending notes, and it kind of went away. But it was about 28% of Republicans, and so the magic number is 28. Trump never, ever gets below 28, and so here he's at 34 for a role model. So in that ballpark, right? So somewhere between 30% to a third of the country, right? They're immovable, but there's also an immovable third of the country on the Democratic side. So, but remember, 34 is not 51. He won the popular vote. So that other 17% is enormously important. That's who we have to win over. So if you say some of them are QAnon nutsos and they think that Democrats wear children's faces as masks or whatever the crazy things that they believe in, or milder, but still they think Trump can do no wrong and they wish that their kids would grow up to be a bully like him. Okay, I can't believe it, but okay, fine. But that's not all of them. If it was all of them, it would be hopeless because it's harder to break through to folks like that. And Michael's interviewed a lot of them at the MAGA rallies. It's not like they don't exist. And if you're on the right wing and you're not one of those people, you can say, well, they don't exist. No, they do exist, brother. They do exist, right? But I'm also acknowledging that other 17% of the country exists that voted for Trump but is not in that category. And that's who Democrats have to win over if they want to win elections.
For sure, it's just this amount, the amount is just so mind-boggling, and with the rapid exponential growth of social media and these algorithmic effects on our lives that are putting us further and further into silos and into echo chambers where you never hear the other side, we're just increasingly becoming more and more susceptible to that percentage growing, the QAnon psycho percentage that just absorb any fact. Michael, you've interviewed so many of them, the good liars do it all the time. People that just have, even within the same sentence, insane, hard to explain cognitive dissonances where somebody says, I in fact think Trump is still president right now. And then you say, but then why are you against what he's doing if it's your guy? And they can't process that fact.
There is the celebrity effect too that we can't deny, that's not going to come along every time. It might again. I saw somebody doing kind of what I do in the street in Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district this week. I don't know who it was. It was really fascinating stuff. They were going to people asking them who they voted for president and then who they voted for Congress. all of them, about a dozen voted for Donald Trump. Every one of those Trump voters voted for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. So there is this, also the fact that he's a celebrity, which is a big part of his draw, and there's no question about it. And that will be hard to sustain once they get back to, if they get back to.
Yes, but there's just still this softening of the brain. I infiltrated.
There's no question, yeah.
The QAnon RFK, I mean the JFK Jr. group in Texas. I went there with hidden cameras. I was just making up facts, and they were like, "Really? I got to tell the leader." I mean, just out of, I wrote on a piece of paper. I was like, "Look, JFK Jr. left this note in my hotel room saying I'll be back. Hugs and kisses, JFK Jr." And they're like, "This looks legit." I mean, just stuff I'm pulling out of the back of my pants.
Yeah, but there is also an anti-establishment fervor that has led them towards Trump too. So it's a combination of factors. All right, in the bonus episode for our members, we're going to do some fun stories. So you guys have loved those so far. We're gonna bring back Jingle Jangle Alan Lichtman one last time, okay? And Jesse Waters has some interesting points that we're gonna wanna share with you guys and then make fun of. So you'll enjoy that. Hit the join button below or tyt.com/team where you get 20% off of monthly membership right now. So we'll see you there.